The practice of not having to be somewhere. God, this is hard for me. I always like to be on the go. I love the hurry. I sometimes say that I don't. I'm like, oh, I've got a lot going on. I've got a lot I'm processing. Feel bad for me. But like, I love hurry because I think it distracts me because of all the things that are going on in my life. I'm like, if I can think about the fact that I'm in a hurry, I don't have to think about what's actually sitting right in front of me. So this is like a really good practice for me. I really need to dive into it. Unpack it a little bit more for everybody watching.
Yeah, so I think it really goes off with, again, what Dallas Willard says. He's one of the kind of the heroes for me, but he said that the enemy of spiritual formation is hurry. And it really is. And our culture, and I think what you're saying, Carson, is exactly right, that we're addicted to hurry. It's a badge of honor. I remember, I grew up, and when my career was starting, it was when you had the Day Runner. I remember you wanted to buy the Day Runner. It's the big, giant notebooks, and you'd open them up, have all the calendars, and you would like color code stuff. So you have all your meetings in green and all. And it was just, when your calendar was full, you're like, dude, my Day Runner's full. I'm like the man. And now it's probably your calendar or whatever it is. But it's the same adrenaline or whatever that rush is that makes us feel important. But what inevitably happens is that rush constantly gets us more and more discontent, and it creeps in even worse ways, where a lot of us will think we are only useful when we get somewhere else. So it's not just physically, but it's this stage of life, this season of life. When this gets over, then things will be better. When I get through this, then things will be better. And we call this destination thinking, where we end up just always longing to be somewhere other than where we are. And so the practice of not having to be somewhere means that you stop, and wherever you are in your life, I'm a 25-year-old and I'm starting out, blah, 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 blah. I'm a 17-year-old, I'm about to graduate from college. I'm whatever, not yet married. Wherever you are, you stop and you go, this is where I am, and I do not have to be somewhere else.
Wow, that's so hard for me. It's like,
not easy.
It's like the other night, for an example of being somewhere physically. The other night, Maddie and I were eating dinner. She cooked. We were at home, and we very rarely eat at home. You know this. And we ate at home, and it was really good. Like, I had been at home for a couple hours, and I looked at her and said, I think we should go get Chick-fil-A brownies. And if you didn't know, Chick-fil-A has brownies now, and they're really good. But I don't know if we're allowed to say that on the video or not, but we just said it. And I was like, let's go get a Chick-fil-A brownie. And she asked me this question that like struck me to my core. She said, do you really want a brownie? Or can you just not stay at home for more than a couple hours at a time without sleeping? And I was like, ouch. But it was so revealing for me. I'm not happy if I'm not on the go. Yeah. And for me, I don't really know a great next step to walk towards within that.
Yeah.
So what's something that for somebody like me that struggles with this chronically, what's something that we could do today? Because we need that. We need something that we can apply today in this. What's something we can
You're
do?
like a great test case for all this, Carson. I didn't realize this when we talked about doing this. This
My
is
struggles
perfect.
are deep.
So, but what you'll find is there are, and honestly, so your wife is my daughter, so I get this totally. But that's actually a great question. Because it's so perceptive. It's like, and what actually happens is precisely when we don't create these spaces to learn and see this, we'll think, oh, I just wanted a brownie. No, you didn't just want a brownie.
Right.
What you wanted was something to fill some space that you're not used to being in. And it's not bad or wrong. It's just the condition that we live in. And what you have to find out is what is happening there. And this is really the beauty of this, and this is why this part matters so much. So the way you do it, again, some of these practices, they're not things you have to coax yourself into. You just have to stop and believe it. I know that you believe that you don't have to be somewhere else, but there's that tendency and that drive. So we stop and give our beliefs long enough to take some weight and some root to hold us in that place. We can begin to discover things. And what you find is the freedom to be present. And I do this because I can feel this when I'm talking to people and I'm coming down here, someone stops me and you feel like, oh, I've got to be down in the gallery or down here because I got a meeting. And what that does, it sort of subtly fuels this sense of importance that we like. And one of the things that Jesus modeled, he's on his way to a big speaking engagement and there's a blind beggar. And Lord have mercy, he stops. Or a woman reaches out and touches him and he stops. You always see him in the moment being present. And when we sort of get our mindset on that we don't have to be anywhere other than we are, it actually frees us to be where we are. Again, this is not to say that you don't schedule or don't create a calendar. It's just to say that you cannot fall into the trap of running ahead all the time, or you will be completely exhausted and you'll end up really disillusioned.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And I definitely feel that spiral and the temptation to believe that the busier I am, the more important I am, or the more successful I am.
Or productive.
It connects back to that practice. So I think for some, if you're watching right now and you're going, this is me, I'm constantly somewhere else, whether it's physically or if you're in a conversation with somebody and you're just mentally distracted thinking about something else, this is a perfect opportunity to learn, to start to practice this, to just be present, because I really believe God shows up in those moments.
Because that's exactly the thing, that what happens is when you stop and you're present, what you're saying is, God, this moment is actually important for your present, for your purposes. And that's what often gets lost, that everything that we're dealing with, the seasons that we end up in, whether they're places where we wish we were somewhere else, those seasons are so rich and they're so important for what God is both doing, in the world through our lives, but what he's doing inside our lives. We need to let that part kind of awaken and really embrace that as we process in this sort of space that's created by the practice of not having to be somewhere.
That's really good. I think that the moral of the story today is don't go get the Chick-fil-A brownie, right?
You can do that.
Save your money and let the brownie be there for another day. That was really good.